Hi everyone, Dr. Dashki here, and I'm going to talk to you about the sacred and the profane. But before I can do that, I need to talk about insiders and outsiders. When I say insiders, I'm really talking about people within a religion, or we might say within a religious worldview. Worldview is a fancy word that scholars use to describe what I call here the framework of existence, what you think reality is, both in its seen and unseen components. Now, everybody has a worldview, and each religion, we might say, has a sort of consensus worldview. People actually have multiple worldviews, and they share them with some people, and they share others with other people, and some of them are private, and some of them are kind of exclusive. So when we talk about the worldview of a religion, of course, it's a very, very broad and general understanding that is not held by all believers or practitioners, but is supposed to give us a sense of the landscape of the kind of reality that they accept. Some of this is not even totally conscious for them. Now, when we talk about outsiders, as I say here, that's basically everybody who's not in that religious worldview, and technically that can include everybody who is not a practitioner or believer in a particular religious system. So each religion is outside to other religions. Each practitioner of religion is an outsider to other practitioners. But more likely when I refer to outsiders, I mean scholars of religions, ones who have taken an interest in religion and its people and its worldview for the express purpose of trying to understand, study, interpret, evaluate, sometimes critique that religion. The scholar of religion has critical distance and uses the academic tools of the study of all things human, psychology, sociology, history, various other kinds of experience, and realms of knowledge to try to understand religion using those sorts of tools. Very broadly speaking, we can say that a worldview always has a map. Insiders understand that there is a part of the reality that lies beyond what is visible or physically real. What I show here is one version. This is actually what we might think of as a more or less Western version of the map of the cosmos, where the sacred is above the profane. This might apply to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. There are other maps where we might say the sacred is next to the profane. Very often indigenous traditions will have something like this, where the sacred world is kind of literally right next door. It's where the ancestors are, where people go when they die. They're still there, but they're sort of living right next door with them, still interacting with them. And then we might even talk about the worldviews in which the sacred is integrated with the profane. This would be more of an Eastern worldview. I like to say in this case, the profane world is separated from the sacred by a semi-permeable membrane, very much like the yolk of an egg. I note here that the cosmos is essentially the word for the world as it's known, specifically as the world as it's been ordered out of chaos. So cosmos is a worldview that unites these two different kinds of reality, an empirical one in this world called the profane, the ordinary, mundane, earthly existence as most people experience it on a regular basis. This might be the physical world, as in nature, as pictured here, or the social world of day-to-day existence, as depicted in this city scene with people, cars, cell phones, etc. Beyond this, there is the sacred, what I'll call the transcendent realm, the other half of the cosmos, also known as holy, supernatural, extraordinary, heavenly, divine. These two halves of the cosmos are completely opposite, qualitatively mutually exclusive in nature. Insiders often understand that this is where God or gods, or spirits, or angels, or demons, or other supernatural beings live. It is generally where they believe the soul goes when they die, and where numerous kinds of privileged communications and other kinds of information about earthly matters exist. The sacred is considered to contain or exhibit three notable aspects: power, knowledge, and purity. Power. We see that entities have abilities, strengths, powers that profane beings do not, for lack of a better word, up to and including the quality of omnipotence, or all-powerful. We find also knowledge, which might be expressed in laws, morals, secrets, the course of history, the end of the world, up to and including omniscience, all-knowingness. And we find that the sacred contains purity. Purity means to be unmixed, to be perfectly all the same kind of thing. The natural state of the profane world is mixture. Chemists will tell you that achieving purity, even in the lab, is incredibly difficult, and it doesn't happen naturally, which is to say it requires power to achieve purity, which is then associated on earth with the knowledge of morality or the path of goodness, up to including omnibenevolence or all goodness. So we can start to map onto our map of the cosmos some of the actions that scholars would recognize being communicated in the relationship between the sacred and the profane. For me, the most important one that we were going to encounter is revelation. Revelation is a term that can be applied to the appearance of the sacred in the profane world. This can take any number of forms. We will see it in terms of law. We can see this in terms of the call of a prophet. We can see this in terms of enlightenment or mysticism. When something does appear, like an object or a god or a being or spirit, from the sacred into the profane, this is called a hierophany, expressing the idea that the sacred is higher or above, or, in a word more powerful, than the profane. If it is specifically a god, that is a theophany. If it is an angel, that is an angelophany, and so on and so forth. We call this a revelation because in this view of the cosmos, the sacred world is ordinarily hidden or veiled from the profane world, such that we may not even know that it exists except in extraordinary circumstances. And then every now and again, in a religious setting, something from the sacred world will appear in the profane world. If this happens without humans asking it to happen, this can be an extraordinary event that sometimes even starts a new religion. On the other hand, we will talk later in another video about the mechanism by which human beings will move things from the profane to the sacred, and sometimes create the space, literally a sacred space, for the sacred to appear in the profane. And that mechanism is what we call ritual. So until that time, we're going to finish up with the sacred and the profane here, and look for the other videos on Mircea Eliade, Emil Durkheim, Taboo, and others to fill out the gaps in this map.